rcFoamFighters Bulletproof RC Plane Build Along number 1. We're going to go ahead and jump right back into the build, but as we get going I'm going to have a few things I want to go over. So let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, the next thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be preparing the wing to put on the sandwich layer of the Henry's weave. I want to put a layer that's going to run underneath the KF airfoil. So we're going to have to prep the wing first before we can put the KF airfoils on. And before we can lay the Henry's weave, we're going to have to bevel the trailing edge of the wing. The leading edge and the sides aren't going to matter as much because we're going to have to do that after the KF airfoil is on. So we're going to be using the handheld hot wire cutter to do the beveling on the trailing edge. But before we do that, there's something that I noticed as I was starting to put this together. Usually I like to lay out all the equipment onto the wing to get a rough estimate where the center of gravity is going to be. Originally I was going to put the motor all the way at the tail end, but it seems like we're going to have some balancing problems with it. So I'm planning on making this more of a mid-engine setup. We're going to put the motor inward and we're going to have to cut a slot out for where the prop in that is going to be. I'm going to go ahead and turn the video off, and I want to lay it out first, and then I'll start up the video and we'll go over what exactly I'm planning on doing. Okay, I've got the lines drawn out. I'm going to go over the dimensions in a little bit, but I just want to explain exactly what's going on here. I put a dummy motor on there to give you a general idea where the engine's going to be. This is not the motor that we're going to be using. Basically we're going to be cutting out along this line all the way across and back up to this corner and removing this whole section behind the motor. We're going to go ahead and replace it with a thin piece of wood that's going to follow this line and come out so that we can keep the shape of the wing. This is going to help out in a couple different ways. I'm planning on doing the same thing Paul has done on some of his other planes, such as his Nova jet. On this plate we can go ahead and put some other thin pieces of wood to use as diffusers to help direct the airflow. Since we are planning on trying to build this plane without rear stabilizers, this should help to stabilize it. We're going to try that out first to see if it works, and hopefully we won't have to put any stabilizers on the plane. But anyway, this is basically my thoughts on what we're going to do, where I'm going to go ahead and cut out the piece that's going to come out of there, and then we're going to go ahead and bevel the edges of the remaining trailing edge part of the wing so that we can lay down the first layer of Henry's weave.
Alright, before I cut out the piece, I wanted to show you guys how to transfer the dimensions over. Basically, this is why we're going to put the center line on here so we can use it to measure off of. We're going to use the square, make sure that it's lined up along the center line, and we're going to come from the tip up 6.5 inches, and then we're going to come over the same distance that this point is, so we're going to come across 4 inches and put a dot. Then you're going to flip it over, do the same thing, make sure that you're lined up on the center line, and at the tip here it should be 6.5 inches, and come over from the center line out 4 inches, put another dot. Alright, and then this is going to be the dimensions of the plate that's going to be made out of wood, but we need to make the slot width. So we're going to come up another 1.25 inches to make the slot width is going to be about 1.25 inches. So we're going to move it from 6.5 on up to 7.75. So from the tip to this point, you want to make sure that it's 7.75 inches and that it's lined up on the center line. And then you're going to come across again 4 inches and put a dot. Flip it over again making sure that you're on the center line and at 7 3/4, and come over 4 inches again and put another dot. Alright, these are the only 4 dots that we need to put. These dimensions should still be at 4 inches. We can double check them before we draw the lines. Just come off the center line and maybe even just put a mark at 4 inches here. And do the same thing on the other side. And now all we have to do is connect the dots. And again, make your lines nice and dark so that you can see them when you're going to cut it. Alright, so that's going to be the width of our slot for the prop bay. And just line it up on the dots, all 3 of them on the sides. And one more line to go. And there we go, we have our dimensions. And like I said, this piece from here will be replaced with the wood plate. This part is going to be the open slot where the prop is going to go. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and turn off the video and cut it out.